Yes, how is everyone? One Championship X went down this weekend. Finally, it was supposed to be One Championship's 10 years anniversary event, but it has been postponed a few times because of the pandemic. But finally, this weekend, it went down. It was a huge event, many matches, mixed matches and grappling matches and MMA matches and everything in between. So if you're a martial art fan, there is something for everyone, I think. I won't go through the whole event, of course, because I will sit here till like next year maybe, because it was a huge event, as I said. But before the event, or the matches I have been looking forward to, it was mainly two events. One was the grappling event, and one was the mixed martial art match between Mighty Mouse, Demetrious Mighty Mouse Johnson, and Rodtang Yitmugnan. I won't try to pronounce his last name again, but I will just call him Rodtang from now on. But it was a match with special rules because Mighty Mouse, of course, is an MMA fighter, while Rodtang is a really good Muay Thai striker. So they had the rounds with I think it was 5 rounds, starting with Muay Thai rules in the first round, MMA in the second round, and then they switched every round. So it was a really interesting match. Not very common, but I think this is one of the One Championship's good things. They try to mix things up and do a little different takes on matches without it being too what to say. They mix up the matches, but it won't be too silly, so to speak. The grappling match, I think I will go through that first, and this was between Danielle Kellys and Yamaguchi. Danielle Kellys did her One Championship debut in this event. She was signed earlier this. Well, she was signed last year, I think, and this was her debut. The grappling match went in atomweight, and it was a submission only. So if the match went to distance, it would go to a draw, so no points. Danielle Kellys, of course, is a really good grappler and one of these really, well, you could say prodigies. She's only about, I think, 26 years old, a black belt, very good grappler, good credentials, good competition credentials. Mei Yamaguchi, also a good grappler. Hard to say which one is better, because that was why we have this match, I think. The match started kind of slow, but of course the fighters need to take their time and feel each other out a bit. Kellys, after some time of feeling out, actually pulled guard and worked pretty good from the bottom, while Yamaguchi stayed on top in the guard and defended really well. So of course, if this was if they would have counted points, Kellys would have been in a disadvantage, being on the bottom. But when they don't count points, Kelly was the one who was more active, I think. She tried to sweep and she tried for submissions, while Yamaguchi mostly just defended and maintained her position. In the middle of the match, they stood up and Yamaguchi went for a takedown. Kelly sprawled and reversed the takedown and ended up on the top herself. She continued to fire off submissions, went for heel hooks, went for other submissions, and overall she was the more active fighter. So after the match went to decision, but it was not for a lack of trying from Kelly, and she had a really good toe hold a few times. I think two times, or it was a heel hook or toe hold, but Yamaguchi didn't tap, so all power to her. She must have really flexible feet, and as Kelly said in the interview after, she probably felt submissions the day after, because she would probably be pretty sore in her feet. But a really good and entertaining grappling match. So all power to these ladies, and even though we didn't see a submission, I think Kelly will do really, really well. She continued to show that she's a top level grappler. It will be interesting to see if she transition over to MMA in the future. She's still very, very young in the sport, and it will be interesting. She even got a bonus. I think it was $30,000 or $50,000 for the match. So it was a good night for her. And then to the main event, or well, my main event, I would say, because this card was split up in 3 parts, and the last part was the grand finales, and there was some really good fights, but I will concentrate on Demetrious Johnson, Mighty Mouse between and Rodtang. So, and what I like about this matchup is that they used mixed rules. It made for a really entertaining fight, and I think it was really hard to predict anything before, because the match is in a pure MMA match. I would of course take Mighty Mouse. In a pure Thai boxing match, Rodtang all the way. I do think that for me personally, I wanted Demetrious to win because I like him as a fighter, and I like him as a person, and he seemed to be a really, really cool guy. No offense against Rodtang though. He is a really good fighter too, and extraordinary when it comes to Muay Thai. I have Mighty Mouse is my guy here. But the match started with Muay Thai rules, Thai boxing rules, and you could see the difference in the striking. Demetrious have good striking when it comes to MMA, but Rodtang, it's another level. The movement, the speed, the way he just fights standing is totally a different level than Mighty Mouse. But with that said, Mighty Mouse held his own, actually. He defended well, had pretty good head movement, and even though he was backing up and defending the whole round, he actually managed to got in a few good counter shots, which showed that Rodtang has a really good chin. But for the round itself, Rodtang all the way. Demetrious was on his heels backing up, defending, but couldn't get anything really going. And I think this was the strategy too, because Rodtang is dangerous, and if you do one mistake, you will end up on the canvas and watching the lights. So the round ended. Rodtang was the victor of that round, of course. But the second round, now we went into MMA rules. This was when things started to get interesting. Mighty Mouse was the one that started to press forward. Still cautious, because one punch and he could end up on the canvas. But he started to push forward, and in the first round, you could see that the reflexes was to clinch and go for a takedown. He could clinch, but he couldn't go for a takedown. But here he did the same thing. He pushed forward, clinched, and managed to get Rodtang down against the cage, I think. Well, more like Rodtang ended up on the ground and managed to stand up on his hands and knees, and Demetrious just jumped all over him, went to the back, and after a little struggle managed to get the rear naked choke, and actually choked Rodtang unconscious because he didn't tap. Even though you could see that when the match went to the ground, Rodtang was in deep water. It was, I would say, it was a matter of time before it was a finish for Mighty Mouse. But he did defend it quite well on the ground. I do not know how much grappling Rodtang has, but yeah, it was decent. He did a few good things, but you have to understand too that it's easier to learn grappling defense than learn to submit people. So with just a few weeks defense, you could do pretty well against a good grappler who goes on the offense. Even though you will get submitted, you could defend pretty well. So yeah, in a way, yeah, I was of course happy that Mighty Mouse won, but in a way I would have liked to see what would have happened in the later rounds too, because you can see that this. What I really like about this matchup was that this changed type. Well, the match really changed from round to round. You could see that Rodtang was offensive when he had the advantage of rules, and in the next round the table turned. So then Rodtang went on defense and Mighty Mouse went on offense. And I would like to see how that turned out in later rounds. Maybe it could have been more equal when the fighters got tired. Or, yeah, I really like this type of battles, and it gives a more equal advantage to both fighters. We had these MMA fighters go over to boxing and try box good boxers and get finished, or lose. And of course they go into a totally different rule set, and as much as a pure boxer that goes to MMA will lose too. So that's not really equal grounds, I think. But when you do it like this and have mixed rules in different rounds, I think you give both fighters a fair shake. So when you talk about the Paul brothers and who have been making a big dent in the martial art world for the last year, I think if you're supposed to make an equal match between an MMA fighter and a boxer. I think you need to apply these type of rule sets, and I hope we can see more of this. I wouldn't say. I think One Championship does it well without the event being too silly and stuff like that. It still seemed like a good match, and yeah, I hope we will see more of this in the future. Of course, UFC would never put things like this in their octagon, but yeah, One Championship should continue with these things. You could even mix it like a grappler against a striker. Like if you take Kelly, for example, pure grappler, but have a striking round and a grappling round. Yeah, there are many things you could do, or even just a boxer against a Thai boxer, but you have boxing rules in the first round and Thai boxing rules in the second round, which will change things, I think, and it would be interesting. Did any of you see the event? I think you can see it, most of it on YouTube actually for free. I will see if I can put down the link in the descriptions down below here. Not the grand finales though, but I think part 1 and part 2, so you could see Kelly's match, for example. Demetrious match, I think you have to pay for, but there are many matches on the free card too, so watch it. I think it's was a really good event. But yes, this was what I had today, and if you like my content, push the like button, ring the bell, leave a comment, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.